Hi, folks. Oh my God, my cat just got on my lap here. Hey, I'm Henriquez with Henriquez Organics, and we want to talk a little bit about nutritional prep, especially during this coronavirus breakout. It's pretty nasty, but we can do a lot about it. We can pretty much um, heal ourselves in a lot of ways. And remember, Pythagoras once said, "Let thy food be thy medicine." And I'm a big believer in that. We basically fabricate all our organic fertilizers. We instruct people how to put in amazing vegetable gardens that will grow really, really, really healthy, high nutritional food. So the emphasis being put on high nutritional food. If you have chemically doused, chemically fertilized pesticides and everything else on your vegetables and in your soil, you basically end up with a dead soil eventually that doesn't allow the plant to take up the nutrition from the soil. So what we've done over the last, say, 30, 40 years here is come up with organic fertilizers that will be amazing to grow your vegetables in. There's a couple more things that are really needed during flu seasons, coronavirus season, whatever we want to call it, and that is things like vitamin C, zinc. There's a lot of possibilities to get that out of your food, and depending on who's listening and what part of the country and how cold it still is or how warm still is, you're probably not going to be able to actually start growing right now. But I highly suggest that we start vegetable gardens if you don't already have them, or expand your vegetable gardens if at all possible, depending on where you live. If you're in the city versus the suburbs versus the countryside. So growing your own food in a really, really healthy soil is the key to health. And if you're growing things like mushrooms and kale and spinach and garlic, just to mention a few who have a high zinc content. And why am I talking about zinc? Zinc in research has shown that it will penetrate virus cells. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not claiming these things. I am telling you to do the research yourself. Look it up. And you probably won't hear this from WHO. You won't hear it from CDC or anything like that, because these people are subsidized by the pharmaceutical industry. So is your networks, your so-called media, that are all subsidized by chemical companies, whether it's pharmaceutical, whether it's farming, agriculture, etc., etc. So they're not going to spout this out. Okay, they're not going to tell you in their briefings from, hey, you guys, if you have the right zinc content and the right vitamin C content, the chances of your immune system not being able to handle the influx of a virus is greatly reduced. You're not going to hear that. All you're going to hear is, oh, we're coming up with another shot for you, or we're coming up with this, or we're coming up with that. But basically all that does is break down your immune system even further. And that's just a fact of life. I mean, look at us. Look at us. I'm 66. And I've had, what, 2-3 shots in my entire life? When we were kids, we had polio, we had, let's see, what else? Measles, a couple of these things. That was it. And we've done just fine for 60, 70 years. Now all of a sudden we're getting, well, babies are getting what? 20, 30 shots by the time they're 5 years old. It's insane, and you're getting more diseases instead of less. So what does that tell you? I can tell you one thing: if you lead a healthy lifestyle, if you don't eat processed foods all the time, I mean, once in a while, hey, why not? But on the basis, don't do that. Create healthy. Like I drink, for instance, a green drink every day, a concoction of all kinds of protein powders and green powders and stuff that has the zinc in it and everything else. Make it here every day. That's what I have for lunch. Also, I have a sandwich. I work hard. I'm out in the landscape construction industry. Besides erosion control, besides the farming industry, because we have two companies here, and one of them is Hendrika's Organics, the other one is Hendrika's Group, which is a landscape construction design, but basically emphasizes on soil remediation, landslide renovation, things like that. So it's a hard physical job, and we need to stay healthy doing that. Well, I get a lot of exercise doing that, by the way. So if you have a job that it puts you behind a desk all day long, it's good to get out there and get that heart pumping. Okay, remember, oxygen is the key here. Oxygen, oxygen, oxygen. Because as you gain oxygen in your body, cancer cells and all these things don't stand a chance with the high immune system that you have. These are health tips. And I can't emphasize them enough. So if you start growing your own vegetables, take a look at what you want to grow, how much, how you're going to preserve them. Some people can, some people dry, some people freeze dry. Of course, if you freeze drying, that stuff will last years. So you can actually store this up. So if you're in a climate that has a winter in it, like we are here in Seattle. Well, I'm not in Seattle, but I'm about 25 minutes away from Seattle. But we have winter. You can't grow anything unless you had a big greenhouse, et cetera, et cetera. Fruit trees are dormant, so on and so forth. So if you look at what you can grow in these vegetable gardens, or even in pots, you can plant some elderberry. Very good for you, by the way, especially for this type of virus, or any flu virus for that matter. You can grow blueberries, raspberries in pots, even if you just have a small area and you say, well, I can't really, build a big vegetable garden. You can do something that helps you, or herbs. A lot of the herbs you can grow in pots. Just make sure you give them the right food, the right amount of water. And remember, always the trick, people go, well, my plant isn't looking that good. It looks like it needs more water, but you probably drowned it. That's a possibility. If you drown them, it's the same. You're going to get the same effect as if they are underwater. And people go, oh, how's that possible? Well, if you overwater, the hair roots that absorb everything to go into that plant rot off. So all of a sudden the plant looks like it's starving for water, but instead you have overwatered. And people go, well, how can I tell? Well, most of us on this planet have this, a finger. You push that finger into that soil, and if it's bone dry, you add water. If it's sopping wet, you stop watering. And if it's moderately moist, you're doing great. See? Easy tricks. You don't need heavy duty, expensive instruments for this, etc., right? So these are your tips. And depending on the soil you're buying, you're buying a good potting soil, or if you have an entire vegetable garden, well, how am I going to get this stuff really, really abundant? And how do I get that good soil if I'm in a region that it's hard pan, or etc., right? So, of course, we will get into some of these things over time in some of our next YouTubes. But the beginning is this: if it has good drainage, if it doesn't compact, you can add organic matter and increase the volume of what we call biology. Biology are all these little critters that exist in your soil, in good soil, that will help you, or help the plant to uptake that nutrition. Yeah, so there's many people that study this. One of the people that I know well is Dr. Elaine Ingham. She's a soil microbiologist. Would behoove people to look into that. Dr. Elaine Ingham, soil biology. She will go into detail. Some of it will go right over your head because it's like talking to a lawyer. It's like I don't know what kind of lingo they're using, that kind of stuff. But the basics is this: in one hand of soil, there is more biology than there's people on the planet. In that hand of soil, what's happening in that hand of soil? An entire universe is taking place there. Same as us, living in cities, we have our water supplies and our roads and our reservoirs and our thises and our that. Well, that all happens in the microcosmos, as I call it. Once that's established, it is incredible. If you could see through a microscope how that all works, it is absolutely phenomenal. That is what keeps your soil aerated. It holds on to the moisture needed. All that does, the bacteria create some kind of a glue that keeps components together, structures. All of that happens in a handful of soil. So if you can imagine your entire garden is doing that, and the worms are there, and the arthropods are there, and all these critters that take care of breaking down organic matter. They help you revitalizing that soil nonstop, right? So having said all of that, as we look back on the old farming days, old practices where most people may be listening to this, I'm not fully aware of this kind of stuff, but I grew up on a farm as a child in Holland. About 6 kilometers from the German border, which I think is equivalent to 3 or 4 miles, and we farmed the land, in those days with horses and plows and all of that stuff, but we could smell that soil. And I would go with my father to the land, and we would look at the land, and he would grab a handful of soil and feel it and smell it. And he goes, okay, yeah, we need to do a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that. By scent, okay? Now, let's get a little bit into that. So everybody out there that is starting off, okay, what you should do is, say you go to a forest. The duff that's sitting in that forest, pick it up, smell it. Wow, that's a really pungent, beautiful smell, right? Go to a grassland, then smell the soil there. Completely different scent. Why is that? Because what the forest needs versus what the grassland needs are two different things. There's a change in biology happening that creates that scent. So if you have a soil that smells a little sweeter, you have more bacterial activity in that soil. If you're smelling a forest soil, you have a more fungal. We get to what's called pH. Lower pH, higher pH. Where your vegetables grow in, or a large sum of them, are going to be anywhere from the say 6.2 to 6.8. But if your pH would be 7.5, that's way too high, right? So if it's 5.5 or 5.4, it'd be great for blueberries and stuff, but it's not that good for for your strawberries. You see how it all works. Now, there's a lot of studies, a lot of this stuff you can research yourself. You can get a pH meter. You can do a lot of stuff on your own. The information is available. There's good things about our so-called computers and stuff like that, and there's bad things as far as I'm concerned, but that's besides the point. The good things is that information is almost at your fingertips. Start looking. Not how Susie Cream Cheese is doing down the road, you know, and how many pots and pans she has, or whether she has a new boyfriend. That's not important. What's important is for you to use that time to actually look at what I said before, the zinc studies, the vitamin Z studies, and all of these other things, the fruits, you know. And remember, the key is your taste buds. Those are the optimum evidence givers. For instance, a lot of you might remember when you visited grandma or grandpa and they had their garden and they were growing some strawberries or something like that, and you ate one of these strawberries and you just went, wow, this is so good, right? Now you go to your so-called food stores, okay, your grocery stores. You buy this basket of strawberries and they're all big looking and everything else, and there's not a blemish on them, God forbid, right? You bite into it and it's like, yeah, there's a little bit left of that strawberry taste, but it's mostly water. That's nutrition. The sugar content of all vegetables, all fruits, tells you the nutritional value. And the best meter for that is your tongue. It instantly picks this up. Now, of course, if you've been eating Kentucky Fried Chicken and McDonald's all your life and processed foods, it might take a little while for those taste buds to revamp themselves because they have no idea what's going on anymore. That's a possibility. But as an overall, start trying it out. Go to a really good organic food store if you are not growing your own right now, right? And pick some of the stuff there and compare it to what you would get in a Safeway or any of those other food production places. You can taste the difference. If you can't start growing your kale or your spinach or the high zinc content, the mushrooms, high zinc content vegetables, then for now, until you start growing them, you get them at a really good health food store. People go, oh my, I can't afford that. I can't afford that. They're more expensive. What's more expensive? Doctor bills or some high nutritional food? And let me tell you something else, which is the trick also. If you are eating high nutritional foods, you get more and you need less. Now, if I've given talks all over the nation, I've been all over the world, and I give talks on many different issues. I mean, in the soil, from geotech engineering to farming to landscape construction, golf courses, you name it, on and on and on. And the trick that we have is that if you get that substance in you, and like what I do in my talks is I bring what's called a Brix meter. And a Brix meter is an instrument that was originally created for the wine industry, testing grapes. But it also tests an enormous amount of varieties of fruits and vegetables. On stage, I would have people bring me, say, some tomatoes from your grocery store. and I would bring one of my own tomatoes that we grew here. When I did the Brix testing, I would need to eat 10 tomatoes from Safeway, 10, versus me are 1 for the same amount of nutrition. Now, if you ate 10 tomatoes to make up for that nutrition, first of all, you're spending more money than that 1 tomato, for sure. Plus, you'd be on the toilet all day long. Now, if that's what you want to do, hey, be my guest, have at it. But as an overall, that's not really what people want to do. But most of us have forgotten. And when I go back to how I grew up and what things tasted like, and so I was spoiled. I mean, I thought this was normal. The whole world lived like that, right? And the whole world was taking care of their soil. That was just like, well, that's what we do. We're farmers. That's how we grow stuff. Well, that has been almost wiped out by the chemical companies. Now, for instance, I mean, think about this. Like, it was 18, 20 years ago, I was in Austin, Texas, giving a talk on soils and biology and all of that stuff. And I was warning people, okay, against Roundup, glyphosate, GMO, and people thought I was from Mars. It's like, whoa, this is crazy hippie talking about here. I said, by the time that you finally get to the point where you realize what's happening with this GMO, with this glyphosate, Roundup stuff, and everything else, they will have something else. The other day, this is for real, I'm watching, well, because we're checking things out on the TV right now or computer, how's the coronavirus doing? What's going on? What are they going to do with this? And on the same channel, there's some lawyers that come on and says, if you were subjected to Roundup, okay, and you have this and this happening, and you have cancer and all of that, you might be getting some money back, okay, or whatever you call that. I'm going like, well, yeah, that's a long time coming. Wish people would have listened 20 years ago. We wouldn't see these lawyers on TV now making money off of a chemical that was used to basically kill people, right? In your food, by the way. It's in your food. So then about 20 minutes later on the same channel, there is another thing from Roundup. 6 different bottles, and how to nuke your weeds in your lawn. That's insane. First lawyers saying, hey, we'll go to bat for you, you'll get some money, and then all of a sudden there's another one on with 6 different bottles of Roundup and how they can nuke a dandelion. Now, you got to learn to read your weeds, okay? This is very important. When you have an excessive amounts of particular weeds, as you call them, which are herbs, that means it's fixing the soil. Mother Nature is in a constant, today it's a battle, in the old days it was just a rejuvenation process, to fix its skin. It's called soil, in a constant battle. And the more garbage we are putting on there, the more it produces particular weeds to put particular things back into the soil to heal itself. So if you have a lot of dandelions, I mean, I remember as a kid, we had horses, because we used them not for riding. No, we were plowing the fields with those horses, and they pulled the wagons with the hay that we stockpiled for the winter time. So we had horses. If these horses had a stomach problem, they went through that meadow and ate every single dandelion they could find. They didn't study. They didn't have a computer. They knew. Why did they know? Because they're still connected to the overall knowledge that surrounds our three-dimensional density. They're still connected. We are not. But you watch those animals and they go, wow, why are they doing that? Well, because a dandelion is an herb. It's also good for you. You can take the flower petals, you can put them in your salads, you can do stuff with the root. It is an herb. If you have a lot of clover all of a sudden showing up, you don't get the nukers out. You read why that clover is there. And that clover is telling you, I'm low on nitrogen in my soil. So that's why I'm here. I'm providing this soil with nitrogen because it's lacking. Now you, on your TV and media and all the other shams that are out there, have been told that you need to nuke these puppies. Okay? That's why we got Roundup now, right? It's like, no. It's like slicing yourself in the arm and it's infested and you just put a Band-Aid over it and hope it goes away. What do you need to do? You need to clean it. So this is it's the same thing. You've got to understand what has happened. And I'm bringing this all the way back to the virus that's going on today. Partially, these things can go absolutely haywire and bananas because of what we have done or what we're not doing. Both. So when I say health tips, and everybody wants a silver bullet from, oh, I can do this, and this, and I'm good again. No, we have to start having a different paradigm as to how we look at the world that we live in, how we look at the soil. Now remember, soil. You know how long it takes to get a millimeter of soil in different regions? Up to 100 years, 200, 300 years. To get a layer of a couple of feet of topsoil takes hundreds and thousands of years. Hundreds and thousands. We can scrape that away with a piece of heavy equipment in 5 minutes and disregard it. Look at all your new homes, for instance. Okay? Oh yeah, they strip everything, built that new home, and everybody is around that new home, the contractors, and everything gets compacted, and the good stuff is scraped off. And then Joe Landscaper comes in and puts a couple of inches of topsoil, brings a jackhammer, pumps some of these plants in the ground. They all get sick. Why do they get sick? Well, they can't live in that situation because it's not natural to them. They have not created that layer of topsoil. It's the same if you're doing a vegetable garden, right? It's not 2 inches of soil. You think a carrot comes with a jackhammer? No, that carrot needs to be able to go down, loose, loamy soil. That's how it picks up all its nutrition. That's how it gets down there. So you need a minimum of 1.5 feet of really good soil for your vegetable garden. Not a couple of inches. Okay? And if you don't have worms, go to a worm farm, get some worms, put those worms into that vegetable garden. Let those boys go to work for you. Best employees I've ever had. Never take a day off, never have sick leave or anything like that. They're always just rocking and rolling 24/7. And remember, a good population of worms turns 12 inches of soil in 10 years completely over. Imagine that. That's how it all works. That's what we need to be able to understand again. That's where we need to get back to the respect of actual soil, the respect of what we're throwing into it. The soil, what I always say in my talks is, soil is your filter. Okay? So what goes through it goes down. It goes into the water tables. It goes into your ponds and your rivers, your streams, your oceans. All right? And your drinking water. This is what's happening. So the more of these chemicals we're pounding on the soil, and the more of these chemical fertilizers and pharmaceutical leftovers we're pounding into our soil, end up in our waterways and everything else. What happens to the fish? What happens to the biology, the marine biology, the reefs? Do we understand what's going on? So you want health tips? Those are the health tips. A complete paradigm shift in understanding what to do. However, again, on the immediate, as I've said, the health tips are for you to eat high nutritional fruit, nuts, vegetables. Remember, let thy food be thy medicine. This is very important to understand. We wouldn't have half of the diseases, not even 85, 90% of the diseases, if we did this. And we start really understanding how it all works. And I'm not talking in high scientific terms here, okay? I wasn't born with an education, with a PhD in this or a PhD in that. I'm called an intuitive. I listen to nature. I listen to the animals. I listen to the soil. You might think, well, this guy is a little crazy. No. Many cultures throughout history have operated that way. I'm just a lucky guy that I wasn't inducted by garbage in schools. I finished school when I was 15. That was the end of that one. The only time I've been back to schools and universities to teach. So when you look at that, it's because I wasn't polluted. Nobody's stuff's junk down my brain from how things were supposed to be because that was good for the corporations or the chemicals or the politicians or the religions or anything like that. No. This is the sky's the limit, and I say the universe is the limit. Connect. See what's happening. Make your stand. And furthermore, for the major health tips here, what do you think is going to happen in the future? The sooner you start these vegetable growing things, the better off we are, because you can then teach your children. I've worked in schools, okay? I've brought soil to these schools. I worked with the children there to plant things, and I created windows, soil windows I call them, that when they pulled the tarp away, they could see the root structures of these plants. They could see how the worms were moving around. A whole new universe. These children were looking at this like, oh my God, this is what happens there? Yes. See, and children are not brainwashed yet. So if you say, well, we have to have respect for this, and this is how we grow things, and that's what we eat, that's why we're so healthy. Remember, the first 7 years of a child's brain development is largely based on nutrition. If you don't get that nutrition, brain doesn't develop normally. Oh, then add all the pesticides and herbicides and everything else that is being dumped on you, and the shots that you're getting. My God, it's amazing we survive it all. It's incredible. It's like, this is absolute insanity. So the health tips is reason. Look at this. What has it done? And let's not get me wrong here. I'm an advocate for more modern science and what's happening in hospitals. But the part that isn't good is drugging people. See, if I just had a knee operation, they put you down. I'm very happy, okay? Really happy, because that's a painful situation. But if I would do that every day, that would not be so good for my body now, wouldn't it? See, so what I'm saying is that sometimes you have to swallow a pill in order to get back up to par. Yes, those things are good. But to get you addicted to opioids, I mean, well, let's talk epidemic here. If we're talking shutting the world down for the coronavirus, we had in 2 years' time over 60,000 people die of opioid overdoses. In 2 years. That makes the coronavirus look like Mary Poppins. It's incredible. But see, this is not how it's being put to you. I'm putting that to you because that's logic. And I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned of our wildlife, of our children, and everything else around it. And we, as humans, can actually make a difference. We can start now. Unless you've already started and you're doing good and you're going like, yeah, man, awesome. Well, thank you for a couple of these tips. But there's also people that are listening to this that have never done it. And some of you might know me from TV shows or the talks I've given throughout the country, or a radio station, or even a movie with Ben Stiller. But what I'm saying is, and what I have been saying, and what we have been doing, is creating products that we can actually apply, many different products, for all different types of reasons, depending on what that soil needs. And the reason this company, with my wife, Nirav, at the helm of HO, have come up with an enormous amount of really amazing stuff that you can use. If like I was just somewhere the other day and somebody said, well, yeah, I planted all my tulip bulbs and my daffodils and stuff, and the dogs dug them up because I put bone meal with them, because it's good for them. And I'm going like, wow, yeah, well, you should do something with that. And how can you prevent it? Well, you're planting those bulbs, you're getting your bone meal in there, and then you get some hot pepper wax, and you spray the ground there with that hot pepper wax, and I can guarantee you the first time a dog goes there and sniffs at it, go like, ooh, this is not my territory. Okay? Done. No chemicals, no nothing. See how simple that was? If you have beetles on your vegetables, or critters that are starting to eat it, take that hot pepper wax. Spray that hot pepper wax on these plants. It's not going to kill your plants, but it damn well stops those critters from eating it. See, we can then help out with that balance. And not to forget, how it all works, on what vegetables taking what out of that soil. You probably heard this many times, maybe from your grandparents, your parents. If you're farmers, you already know this. Monocropping. Okay, so if you have a vegetable garden this year, and you're planting potatoes here this year, and your kale there this year, and your broccoli is over there, and your lettuce is over here, and your carrots over there, and your spinach is over there, then the next year, you don't plant them back in that soil in the same place. You rotate. You need to rotate this every year. 3 years later, those potatoes can go back in the same patch. Those kale can go back in the same patch that it was 3 years ago. Why? Because the vegetables each take up different mineral components that have to be replenished. So what we've done with our fertilizers to make sure that we can replenish that real quick, that we can also add the biology back in real quick, right? So even if you have deprived soil, it will definitely work. We even did ground zero after the buildings came down in Battery Park City with our fertilizers to take care of the calcium deposits from the concrete dust. It works, right? We've done the lion cages in Las Vegas. It was great. I was working this far away from these huge lines. Fortunately, there was bars in between us, and I was redoing the soil so we could put sod on there, so these lines wouldn't get pissed off because they tore the sod apart all the time because the roots couldn't get a hold of them. See what I mean? So it's unbelievable the amount of stuff that soil does. We've developed soils, for instance, that we can put on extremely steep slopes for the erosion control industry that don't need the synthetic nettings and all of that stuff and can handle amazing amounts of water. And we had that happen just recently. I just finished this job. A big landslide. We got our soil on there. It was fall. Nothing grew, right? And we had record rains in Washington. We had floods everywhere, et cetera, et cetera. And these hills are steep, very steep. You almost need climbing gear to climb up parts of them. Not almost, you need climbing gear to part of it. And it just stayed there. How is that possible? Biology. Formula, biology. Same for your vegetable garden. Formula, biology, healthy, high nutritional food for you and your family. If you're growing too much, you can't dry it. I'm sure there's neighbors that would love to get some potatoes or carrots or spinach or kale from you, so we can start sharing. And maybe those neighbors are growing something that you don't have. Maybe they have an orchard with the apples and pears and cherries and you share. This is what happened all my childhood. This is how everything worked. Not a problem. This is what we need to get back to on a large scale. Because as you see now, where there is this, oh my God, the shelves are empty. When is the next trucks coming in? Well, that still works now. But say there's something even worse than this happens. And the supply trains stop coming. What are you going to do? You have nothing to fall back on? Now you're getting the knowledge on how to grow your own vegetables. How to prep for things like that without going absolutely apo and hysteric into the stores and start grabbing a lot of toilet paper, which I still don't really fully understand why everybody went for the toilet paper, because you can't eat it. And there's always water and a napkin or something. But anyways, let's not go too far into that one. But you see, hysteria creates a block, creates where you can't see straight, where you can't think straight. Why? Because you never put yourself in the position that you had your own food, that you were self-reliant. Remember, go back to the Reagan administration. Some of you are probably way too young for that, but some of us are not. At that time, 80% was in the farming communities. 20% was in the cities. Now it's 80% are in the cities, 20% are on the farmlands. See that? I'm not saying bad, good, I'm just saying this is facts. And with these facts, what you need to do is grow your own. Grow some stuff. You're not going to be able to grow everything, but you can grow some really good nutritional stuff for you and your children, right? And for the entire family, depending on the piece of land you have. So as far as health tips, this is what we do. We also have a website. It's HendrickesOrganics.com. I highly suggest you visit it. You can probably see a lot of the documentation on the show that we did here in Seattle for a long time, for a couple of years, where I touch base on all different kinds of stuff. So I highly suggest that, and we'll stay in touch. This is kind of my first one after a while, and my first it's YouTube, right? YouTube. See, I call it geek stuff because I'm not really that good with this stuff. So I always need help. I have my world I know stuff in. But when it comes to all of that, the computerized, I'm really happy to be able to to give a talk and be able to push the right buttons, and that took me a while to do. But anyways, we will be back, and I hope this is of interest to you guys. Again, also let us know if you have questions. You can send these questions to us, but make sure you make it the top heading. Don't give me a Bible and put it somewhere in the middle, because we get a lot of, it happened to me with the Dr. Mercola show. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Mercola, but he's famous all over the world. I was on his show. I had stuff coming in from Australia, China, India, Europe, and I mean, I had no way of answering everybody's email. And we decided that this was the way to do it, because then if you guys send in some questions and you put that on the top, what we will do, we'll look to that and see what most of the questions pertain to. And then I'll touch on those subjects the next time when we do this. How's that? I hope that works for everybody. It's been great meeting everyone, and stay safe, be healthy, get your exercise, stop eating junk, and get growing, okay? And look at our website. Thank you so much for being with us.